Should you run your property like a short-term rental like Airbnb or a midterm rental 30 days or more? Stay tuned. We're going to sit down with Steve Thomas and go over both strategies and which makes the most sense here in Las Vegas. I want to first give a huge shout out to Optimize My Rental, who left a comment under one of my videos asking me to deep dive into hosting and managing short-term rentals versus midterm rentals in Las Vegas. I love when my viewers leave comments and ask me questions. It gives me great video ideas. So if there's anything you ever want me to get to, leave a comment below and I'll make sure to get to it. Now, Las Vegas is an interesting market. While short-term rentals aren't entirely banned, there are a lot of rules and regulations. Short-term rentals do require a short-term rental license, and you, as a property owner, will need to comply with those various regulations. In order to be eligible for a new short-term rental business license, you will need to comply with all conditional use of land and meet the following requirements. It must be owner-occupied throughout the rental period, meaning you must reside at the property the entire time. Second, it can't be more than 3 bedrooms. Third, it can't be more than 660 feet away from another short-term residential rental and 2,500 square feet from an actual hotel or resort. And fourth, it must be in the zoning area that actually allows short-term rentals. Now I have Steve Thomas here, who owns and manages both short-term rentals and midterm rentals, and I'm going to ask him all the nitty-gritty questions you're dying to know. So, Steve, can you tell us a little bit about your experience of owning and managing short-term and long or midterm rentals?
Yeah, sure. So my foray, if you like, into real estate investment first started through rental arbitrage, which for those of you that aren't familiar with rental arbitrage is basically, say Shauna has a home that she owns and she wants to rent it out. I'll say, hey, Shauna, I'll rent it from you, but I'm going to fill it up with tenants that are coming into the area for business or traveling nurses or such and such. And I would basically just profit from the difference in the rent that I pay Shauna and the income that that property generates. So I started with a friend of mine in Scotland, and we ended up having 27 properties. We first started growing the business just through arbitrage, and then as the business grew, generated income, we put that income back into the business, bought our own properties, and these were all short-term rentals out on the east coast of Scotland in Aberdeenshire. I started this business whilst I was still over here in the States, but being in Las Vegas, I thought, well, this is going to be a great opportunity for me to, piggyback this business model over here. But little did I know about all of the laws and the rules and the restrictions about owning and renting short-term rental properties, because as I'm sure Sean has probably told you in other videos, there's a lot of restrictions. You have to be within 1,000 feet or something from another property. You have to get a license. And it's just made so difficult for you to do. Plus add on to that, most communities in Las Vegas have HOAs, right? Homeowners associations, which do not allow short-term rentals. So your pool of properties to pick from in areas is so minimal out here. So when we realized that, we started looking at traditional rentals. We own rental properties that have long-term tenants in that sign 12-month lease agreements. But when we started looking at the rental market and investment market as a whole, we realized that there was a huge market for midterm rentals.
Yeah. And so let's say you were able to, fit within all those rules and regulations, and you were able to get a short-term rental license in Las Vegas. What do you think would make it stand out? Is it sort of like the location or the design?
Both. Definitely people want to be in a safe area. Most people are searching and looking at where properties are and crime maps and stuff. So I say, you definitely want to be in a safe area. If you have a pool that's going to be able to generate you a lot more income, we found, than homes that don't have pools.
Something that's unique.
Yeah, I mean,
different.
Like in our properties, we hire an interior designer because as also real estate brokers, we understand and know the power of how it looks forward facing. So, investing in the aesthetics of the property is something you must do. And, don't just try furnishing it yourself from bits and pieces that you find on Facebook Marketplace. Like, you got to go deep into who you think your avatar is, right? Like, who are the types of people that are going to be renting that place, whether it is short term or long term, right? Either you're going to have a party crowd where, at the weekends, or they're going to want to utilize the backyard space, and you've got to have lots of pools, floaties, and other stuff that they can have fun with and games and stuff, or you trying to attract a retired crowd, or people that are a little bit more peaceful and more retired, and maybe they want a library in the house, right? Or a little, a reading nook and stuff like that. So I think definitely paying attention to who your avatar and your audience is going to pay you dividends.
What do you think is the main difference between short-term and midterm rental in terms of like the startup costs? Is it relatively the same?
Should be. Should be exactly the same, really. Because once you have a fully furnished property, it's a fully furnished property, right? Regardless of who your tenants are. So yeah, your startup costs would be exactly the same.
And how much did you budget for your midterm to actually furnish the property?
Good question. So it's going to go on size. But we spent, so including the cost of hiring the interior designer, I think, and now just for perspective for the audience, this is a 4-bedroom home, 2-story home in Henderson. That's about 2,700 square feet. And we spent about $30,000 fully furnishing it.
Yeah. And that's a large home. So that's definitely, sounds like an accurate number, especially because you probably need not just furniture, but sort of cooking utensils, towels, right?
I mean, you name it. When you own a property like that, you really have to think about how is somebody going to live in it, and what are the things they're going to need, because the last thing that you want is, someone that's calling you at 7 o'clock at night because they need a mortar and pestle. Yeah, like, okay, when are we going to get one of them right now? Right. So think about all of those things ahead of time, and once you've done that and you've invested in it, like, you could pivot from a short-term, business model to a midterm or even a longer-term business model. But once your house is, the property's kitted out, you're all set.
And for your short-term and midterms, do you find a big difference in terms of like demographic of people who choose to do the short-term versus the midterm?
Yes. Yep. Very much so. In this area, right, we've got a plethora of hospitals, which a lot of people don't realize. So because we have a plethora of hospitals and we're in Las Vegas, there's a lot of people that travel here. Traveling nurses is a huge market. And traveling nurses is a huge market because they are typically traveling for at least 3 months. They're going to get a stipend from the hospital for their accommodation. Sometimes these nurses will pull together and get a property for midterm, right? So for at least 3 months at a time. So with those types with midterm rentals, I'm finding definitely a lot more professionals. Also, we found recently a huge demand from insurance relocation. So people their homes are flooded, fires, mold, all sorts of other stuff like that. That's had to take their family, the people, out of their home, and now they need somewhere else to live. So we've been having, relocating whole families. But whereas the short term is just people that are coming here for a few days at a time, right? And that can be on business, can be to, come for the hottest time during the year to see if they could live in Las Vegas during July or August. And then they go back to wherever they are. And honestly, when I look at the vacancy periods of our short-term rentals and our midterm rentals, I know this is not necessarily relevant to demographics, but I think it's valuable for people to know.
Yeah.
We actually have found a shorter vacancy period on our properties through midterm rentals than we did short-term rentals. On paper, I guess makes sense, right? Because we have tenants for 3 months at a time. That's what the definition of a midterm rental is, as opposed to a short-term rental can be a tenant for one night. So I only have to find one tenant for 3 months rather than one person every night, 30 tenants a month. Right, or again that vacancy, that occupancy period up. You've also got the competition as well in that short-term rental kind of space as well, because there is only a certain amount of places you can do it. That's where they're operating. But midterm rental is still fairly difficult to find those communities that you can do that in, that have HOAs and stuff. But it does open the market a little bit broadly, so you have a little bit less competition in your area.
So in terms of property locations, are there specific areas that you target for your short term versus your midterm, such as short term being closer to like urban areas or more dense and midterm being more suburban?
I don't even own and operate any short term rentals anymore, if that means anything to anybody. So out here, I just wouldn't do it. I feel like there's a greater return on investment through midterm. There's a lot less risk. Risk has been mitigated, right, through not having so many people come through the house. I feel like midterm is definitely a better option out here. And if you're looking at, midterm rentals, again, you're going to want to consider who's your demographic. You can buy a property in McDonald Highlands, right, and rent that out for $100,000 a month. There's people that are doing that. So you've got to, determine is what type of market are you going for? If you're going for a luxury tenant, then you're going to want to speak to Shauna, because there's only a handful of luxury communities around town that you can do that, right? But if you're looking for traveling nurses, right, you're going to want to be close to one of the hospitals, ideally. So, yeah, location is very specific, but I feel it's in order to best answer you, I feel like it really goes down to paying attention to who you want to bring in.
Yeah, your avatar, essentially. I know you always speak to that. And I think the question that everyone wants to know, and the most important, is which gives you better returns, a short term or a midterm?
It depends where you are, right? I mean, if you're watching this and you're in New York City and an Airbnb is allowed, I don't know if it is or it isn't.
I think it's outlawed.
Although, yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. But I guess it's really location specific. Like, my business partners still own the business in Scotland. I sold out of that a couple of years ago, but they still own it and their business is going great and they're growing it in different ways. And it's still all short term. Over here, I have no interest at all in doing short-term rentals. Our goal is to continue purchasing properties and utilizing them as midterms.
Yeah. And especially since you told me so much that your midterms are so almost like hands off, it seems very easy to manage and you're constantly booked. So it makes sense that you prefer going that direction.
Yeah. When you think about a short-term rental, right? Every time someone comes in the property, I've got to organize cleaners. And now when the cleaners come, this is a financial burden on the business.
Expense. Yeah.
Right? It's an expense. I'm now, if my goal here is to grow multiple properties, there's no way I can manage this anymore. So now I'm going to have somebody in the team, in the organization, outsource it, right? That's like handling just the logistics.
Yeah.
Cleanings. Honestly, had really great experience with 99% of our short-term tenants. I've had 100% great experience with all of my midterm tenants. Knock on wood.
Thank you so much, Steve, for joining us today and lending us your expertise. I'm Shauna, your investor specialist. If you're thinking about buying, selling, or investing, or maybe you just want guidance on one of the probably most expensive purchase you'll ever make in your life, I love to help. All my information is at thethomasgrouplv.com. I'll be at extension 9. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.